I never imagined that the grandeur of medieval banquets could hide deadly secrets. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The chill in the air whispered of danger, while the flickering candles cast dancing shadows on the stone walls of the great hall. Laughter echoed, but beneath it lurked a tension that prickled at the back of my neck. I sat at a long wooden table, overwhelmed by the feast before marrow-asted boar, rich wines, and delicate pastries laid out like treasures. But the vibrant colors of the food only served to mask the impending horror. My heart raced as I caught sight of Lady Rosalind, her piercing eyes scanning the room. She was the daughter of the Lord, beautiful yet dangerous. I had a twisted fondness for her and feared her in equal measure. I remember the first time we met. Her laughter was like a spell, wrapping around me, making it hard to breathe. Now, sitting across from her, a tension brewed like a storm. I could tell she was hiding something, and the thrill both terrified and intrigued me. Gossip swirled around the table. They spoke of cursed jewels, betrayed lovers, and whispers of poison that could bring a king to his knees. I leaned in closer, overhearing tales of midnight rendezvous and secret passages hidden behind the cold stone of the castle walls. My pulse thudded like drums in my ears. What dark history lay buried beneath the feasting facade? The air grew thick with a grim satisfaction as the Lord rose to toast. His voice boomed, rising above the chatter, filled with a pride that felt almost monstrous. To loyalty, to courage, and to those who know how to keep a secret. Cheers erupted, but my stomach twisted with an unsettling feeling. I could see others biting their lips, casting wary glances. Whispers floated around a mention of betrayal, a name spoken only in hushed tones. Suddenly, a scream shattered the revelry. A servant fell, clutching her throat. The room froze. Silence cut through the chaos like a knife. I felt my world tilt. The banquet hall, once vibrant, now felt like a cage. I stared, frozen, heart pounding. Was it poison? Had the tales been true? Lady Rosalind's glinting eyes darted toward me, a shadow of fear flickering just for a moment. In that heartbeat, everything changed. The laughter, the joy, it was all a mask, and we were all players in a game that could end in tragedy. I glanced around, caught in a web of shock. Who could I trust? What secrets lay hidden behind their smiles? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The aftermath of the scream was suffocating. The once jubilant atmosphere of the banquet hall morphed into an oppressive silence, pregnant with dread. I could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing against my chest, each shallow breath a reminder that everything I once knew was crumbling. The lady at the center of the hall, the one person I had hoped would calm my racing heart, now seemed enveloped in shadows more profound than those cast by the flickering candles. Lady Rosalind, her grace momentarily shattered, rose to her feet. Yet instead of panic, there was a chilling composure about her, as if she wielded knowledge that no one else possessed. Lady Amara. She called out to the fallen servant, her voice steady, an eerie contrast to the chaos blooming around us. But Lady Amara remained sprawled upon the floor, lifeless, the vibrant hues of her dress muted against the cold stones. As guests began to murmur amongst themselves, fear seeped into my bones. It wasn't mere shock that rendered them speechless, it was dread, the palpable understanding that something sinister was afoot. Every nuance of behavior, every whisper I'd overheard, suddenly felt staggeringly significant. The stories I had dismissed as mere gossip now danced malignantly in my mind, a cacophony of curses and conspiracies. Someone has poisoned her. A voice pierced the tremulous silence. It was Lord Alaric, the lord of the castle, his face marred with both outrage and disbelief. His furious gaze swept across the table, searching for a culprit, but all it revealed was a room filled with fearful faces, pinned under the weight of suspicion that I turned to Rosalind. There was a flicker in her eyes, not quite fear, but something that curled my stomach with uncertainty. I hadn't taken my eyes off her. Did she know? Was she involved? I shivered at the thought and sharply inhaled, forcing myself to restore some semblance of composure. In the escalating chaos, I felt an unexpected hand on my shoulder, a gentle pressure, an anchor to reality amid the storm of confusion. It was Cedric, my closest companion. His presence offered a thread of solace. "We need to get out of here, now," he murmured, urgency woven into his quiet tone. "But what if I began?" But he shook his head firmly, cutting off my protests. "Trust me. I know a way." Hesitation gnawed at me as I glanced back at Rosalind, desperately seeking confirmation in her gaze. Instead, there was nothing but an icy mask, much like the walls surrounding us, devoid of warmth. I turned, driven by instinct, and followed Cedric through the throng of frozen guests, each face a portrait of fear. We slipped into the dimly lit corridors of the castle, the flickering torches casting grotesque shadow shapes that danced against the stone. The air was heavy with unease, and every step echoed like a countdown. As we reached a grand archway leading to a smaller chamber, I halted. "Cedric, what if they find out?" I looked back, the gnawing feeling of betrayal nagging within me. "They might think they already think we're guilty," he snapped, eyes darting nervously. "If we stay in that hall, we'll be implicated. The only way to prove our innocence is to uncover the truth." I nodded, swallowing the bile rising in my throat as we entered the chamber. It was dark and eerily quiet, lined with old tapestries. A sense of foreboding wrapped around us, heavy and all-consuming. Then, a soft whisper caught my attention. I turned toward the sound, instinctively reaching for the dagger at my belt, though I doubted my ability to wield it. Stepping closer to the source, I realized it was a low, gravelly murmur sliding through the darkness. Secrets must stay buried or else. A chill exploded down my spine, and just as I was ready to bolt, the shadowed figure stepped into the dim light. I gasped, recognizing the face, the very one I'd hoped to not face tonight, Lady Rosalind. My voice cracked, filled with both confusion and horror. "What was she doing here?" "Listen," she said, her voice urgent yet filled with an intensity that connected us in an unspoken understanding. "You must find out what really happened tonight. There are forces at play that are far more dangerous than you can imagine." Before I could respond, the door behind us slammed shut, the shattering noise echoing like a death knell. Panic surged through me. Was she here to trap us, or did she truly seek to help? Just as the thought crossed my mind, the temperature in the room plummeted. From the shadows emerged another figure, cloaked and ominous, the air thick with hidden agendas. "You should not have come here," it hissed, and a sense of dread uncoiled in my stomach. As I looked from Rosalind to this new figure, the weight of my decisions bore down heavily upon me, leaving me teetering on the edge of a precipice, the truth spiraling just out of reach. As the cloaked figure advanced, spectral and threatening, a frantic heartbeat echoed in my ears, drowning out any coherent thought. I felt Cedric shift beside me, ready to protect, but what could we do against an unknown force cloaked in darkness? The air around us charged with something electric and malevolent, and in that tension, the world narrowed down to a single point: survival. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper, trembling like a leaf in the wind. "Just a keeper of secrets," the figure replied, the voice distorted, as if filtered through layers of ice. "But tonight, it is you who has trespassed upon forbidden grounds." Rosalind stepped forward, her chin high, but the tremor in her hands betrayed her calm facade. "Let her go. She didn't mean to intrude. I brought her here to help uncover the truth." The shadow scoffed, a sound that slithered through the air like smoke. "Truth can be as dangerous as lies, dear Lady Rosalind. Ask yourself, what price are you willing to pay for it?" In the chaos of the moment, I felt a flicker of awareness settle in my chest, that perhaps this was not just a nightmare but a revelation waiting to unfold. There were truths hidden in the banquet hall far more sinister than I had ever dared to imagine, and the fraying edges of their fabric were about to unravel in front of us. Suddenly, a flicker of light caught my attention from the corner of the dim room. It was another figure emerging from beneath a tapestry. Old man Aemon, the castle's apothecary. His grey hair billowed like a storm cloud, and despite the tension, his eyes glimmered with wisdom and a hint of kindness. "Enough of this charade," he said, stepping closer until the shadows clung to him like a protective cloak. "The truth must be revealed, but the question remains, do you possess the courage to face it?" "Aemon," I breathed, relief cracking through the tension, "you must know what happened to Lady Amara." He exchanged a look with Rosalind, that heavy silence passing between them filled with words unspoken. "There are conspiracies, deceptions interwoven with the very fabric of this castle." He turned to me, eyes bright with urgency. "The poison, it wasn't just meant for her. It was a distraction, a means to cloud the truth." "Distract from what?" I erupted, the fear swirling into anger. "What are you hiding?" The cloaked figure scoffed again, this time its stance shifted, revealing an ornate dagger at its side, glinting ominously in the fading torchlight. "Careful, girl. Sometimes, seeking truths can lead to your demise." Caught between fear and defiance, I stood my ground. "What do you want from us?" "Only to warn you, someone among you seeks power, and they will stop at nothing to achieve it." With that, the shadowy figure retreated, melding back into the darkness, leaving only an unsettling stillness in its wake. Rosalind took a step closer, her expression unreadable. "If we are to uncover the truth, we will need to tread carefully. There are spies everywhere, and no one is who they seem. Trust can be our greatest weapon or our greatest weakness," Old man Aemon added quietly. "You must choose your allies wisely." The walls felt like they were closing in. I could sense the weight of betrayal lurking around every corner. Even Cedric's hand on my shoulder seemed filled with uncertainty now, as if we were standing on a tightrope with no safety net below. "Cedric, what do we do?" I murmured, suddenly feeling very small and vulnerable in this grand fortress of secrets. "First, we need information. I know of a hidden library, a place where conversations linger like whispers in the air. If the old legends are true, there could be records that shed light on what happened tonight." "Then we must go," Rosalind declared with resolve, trying her best to mask the fear underlying her voice. "No," a soft, haunting voice interrupted us, pulling us back into the shadows. "It was Lady Amara. Or what remained of her. If you seek the truth, you must first discover who truly desires it." "One who holds the dagger," she warned, and just like that, her form flickered away like smoke. That I gasped, clutching at Cedric's arm, the horrifying reality crashing down once more. What truth had she carried to the grave? What revelations lay behind those bitter words? We stood at an impasse, the weight of a shattered illusion pressing down on us. "Aemon, you must guide us," I urged, my heart pounding wildly. "Please, before it's too late." But he said nothing, his gaze shifting beyond us into the thickening shadows, the silence stretching uncomfortably between us. 1,000 questions buzzed in my mind, but nothing could prepare me for what would come next. A chilling realization that struck like lightning: Amara's death, it was only the catalyst, I blurted. Someone wants to incite a war. The gravity of my own words hung like a noose around our throats. And in that moment, just as I thought we might pull the threads of truth together, Lord Alaric's voice ricocheted through the chamber, echoing with despair and rage. "You cannot escape justice." The door burst open, and a rush of guards stormed in, their shouts mingling with the electric tension of impending chaos. With each heartbeat echoing louder in the darkness, I realized that the true battle had just begun, a battle against shadows all around us, where each choice could lead to salvation, or devastating peril. The guards swarmed into the banquet hall like a tide of armored giants, their swords glinting in the dim light, but it was the look on Lord Alaric's face that sent a shiver down my spine, a twisted blend of fury and desperation. "Arrest them!" he thundered, pointing directly at us, but the breath stolen from my lungs didn't allow for immediate panic. Instead, it ignited a primal instinct within. I felt a surge of adrenaline. "We have to move," I gasped, grabbing Cedric's hand, my heart racing as panic melted into something like determination. We were cornered, but we refused to comply with the shackles of fear. We can't just abandon Aemon. Rosalind protested, her eyes darting between Lord Alaric's aggressive posture and the old apothecary, who remained eerily calm amidst the storm. He'll be fine. I shouted, pulling at her arm. We can't all be taken, but she started, only to be cut short by a powerful bellow from Alaric. Seize them. The guards closed in, their armor clanging ominously as they advanced. In that moment, amid the chaos, old man Aemon stepped forward, placing himself between us and the oncoming guards. Stand down, he commanded with a surprising authority. You don't know what you're doing. This is bigger than you realize. His voice, though old and frail, resonated with an unsettling power that momentarily halted the guards in their tracks. Step aside, Aemon, Alaric ordered coldly. Or you'll regret it. Old man Aemon's gaze softened as he looked back at us. Run, he whispered fiercely, and before I could respond, in an act of bravery and desperation, he thrust an ancient-looking veil toward me. Find the truth, and don't let it slip through your fingers. You have a gift, use it wisely. I grasped the vial as Cedric tugged on my arm, pulling me toward a side doorway. Just as we slipped past the guards, I caught a glimpse of Aemon positioning himself defiantly, arms raised as if to protect our escape. We dashed down a corridor, the sounds of confusion and shouts fading behind us. My heart thundered in my chest, but there was no time to dwell on fear. Shadows whispered around us, and I yearned for the sanctuary of light. Where do we go now? Cedric asked, stealing glances back down the corridor as if anticipating an ambush. The hidden library, I replied breathlessly. It has to be close. If there's any chance we can uncover what truly happened to Amara, we have to find it. Lead the way, Rosalind offered, determination resurfacing amidst the fear, and I started running again, my mind racing with the weight of Aemon's words. As we rounded another corner, I felt an intense chill, as if the very walls were watching us. The flickering torchlight cast eerie shadows that danced against the stones like ghostly figures. It was unnerving. I could hear whispers, elusive and taunting. Amara, the truth, the dagger. The spectral echoes seemed desperate for recognition, and I shivered, the sense that we were not alone creeping over me. We skidded to a halt in front of an ornate wooden door covered in intricate carvings of twisting vines, each knot containing a story of its own. My fingers brushed against the smooth surface, feeling the pulse of history. It's here, I declared, hope flickering against the backdrop of uncertainty. I pressed against the door, but it didn't budge. Is it locked? Cedric asked, his brow furrowed. I nodded, biting my lip. We need a key. Before I could think further, Rosalind stepped forward, her eyes ablaze with purpose. In a swift motion, she pulled a dagger from beneath her cloak. I may not have the key, but we can make one if we need to, she said defiantly. Wait, are you sure about this? Cedric asked, a hint of doubt creeping into his voice. Better to force our way in than to wait for our inevitable capture, she shot back, determination etched into her features. With a swift, decisive thrust, she wedged the dagger into the lock, twisting it with a force that made my heart stop. The gratifying click that followed was sweet, allowing the door to swing open with a heavy creak. Inside, the room was dimly lit with rows of ancient shelves filled with books that smelled of dust and forgotten knowledge. I stepped in, my heart racing at the prospect of uncovering secrets that could change everything. As my fingers traced the spines of the books, I felt the weight of ghosts watching, urging me on. Look! Cedric exclaimed, pointing toward an ornate pedestal at the far end of the room. Laid upon it was a large tome bound in dark leather, its pages worn but vibrant with promise. As I approached, an inexplicable sense of dread infected the air, combining with the thrill of discovery. The shimmering dust in the air seemed to swirl faster, and I could feel the intensity of the shadows plotting beyond the doorway. With trembling hands, I opened the ancient book, its pages whispering with truths that surged into view with every flick of my fingers. Just as I leaned closer, desperate to absorb every word, a sudden crash echoed outside the chamber. The door was flung open, and shadowy figures emerged, their intentions veiled beneath cloaks as ominous as the night. Time's up. Alaric's voice thundered, now laced with an unmistakable malice that my heart sank. The fragile hope I had clung to twisted violently in the face of overwhelming darkness. No escape. The battles we had faced weren't over, they were only just beginning, and soon, we would discover that the truth we sought was steeped in more secrets than we could ever anticipate. And in the shadows that poured into the library, I realized with bone-chilling clarity the dagger Alaric had wielded so threateningly was not only a weapon, it was a symbol of everything we were about to lose. The sight of the shadowy figures filled me with dread, their presence a grim reminder of the peril we had fought so hard to escape. I could see Lord Alaric among them, his cold eyes glinting like polished steel, full of malice and determination. "Dispose of them," he ordered, his tone devoid of any humanity, and dread coiled tightly in my chest. I snapped my gaze back to the tome. The pages held secrets, the promise of answers that could alter everything. But would we even have the chance to grasp them? "Don't engage," I started, my voice trembling, but Cedric had already moved forward, positioning himself protectively in front of Rosalind and me. "Stay back," he shouted, taking an unsteady step towards our attackers. "You won't touch them." An absurd surge of pride mixed with fear bubbled within me as I watched him, but before I could stop him, Alaric barked a command, and one of the hooded figures lunged forward. I grabbed the tome in a frantic motion, struggling to process my next course of action. "Cedric, no!" I screamed as the figure closed the gap, metal flashing in the dim light like a sickening promise of violence. But Cedric, with fiery resolve, dodged the blow of the guard's sword. He countered with a punch that connected with the guard's jaw, sending him stumbling back. In that fleeting moment, I felt a swell of hope, the strength of our bond, the determination behind our fight. But hope was a fragile thing, and Lord Alaric was quick to snuff it out. "You should have known better than to defy me, boy," he sneered, drawing something from his cloak, a dagger glimmering darkly, its blade etched with ominous runes. "Cedric, watch out!" I hollered, but it was as if time had slowed. Cedric's eyes widened, and the world around us faded into a haunting silence, leaving only the clash of our breaths. "Enough." Rosalind's voice sliced through the tension, her own dagger raised defiantly. She lunged at the guard nearest her, tackling him to the ground with a fierce determination. The scuffle sent echoes through the library, punctuating our desperate fight, together. I urged, gripping the tome tighter, an anchor in the storm of chaos. If we were to escape this disaster, we needed to stand united. Cedric moved toward me, his resolve wavering but fierce enough to stand his ground. "What's in that book?" he shouted amid the clash of steel and the cries echoing in the chamber. "I don't know," I cried, flipping the pages frantically and searching for answers. "But it's our only chance to uncover the truth." Just beyond the fray, one of the guards caught sight of us. He charged, weapon raised, but in that moment, I looked at the tome again, its pages catching the flickering light of the torches. I gasped, a line of script catching my eye, a match of stories. "Amara," I whispered, feeling a strange pull to the name, the weight of history resting on my shoulders. "Whatever you're looking for, it's too late." Alaric hissed, advancing, his dagger flashing ominously, but before he could strike, a roar of chaos erupted. Aemon's earlier words flooded my mind, "This is bigger than you realize." Suddenly, I felt a rush of purpose, an ancient force binding me to this moment. "Get back!" I shouted as I thrust my free hand over the tome, the words seemingly rising from the pages. In an instant, a surge of energy erupted around me, a bubble of light that flared and pulsated against the darkness, pushing the guards back in an unyielding wave. A stunned silence filled the room as I felt the power drain from me. I stood, gasping, facing the dazed attackers while the light flickered weakly. The passage of time seemed suspended. I could almost hear Aemon's voice echo faintly, urging me, guiding me. Amara, the name hung heavily in the air, charged with an electric sense of fate. The guards staggered under the tremors of the moment. But doubt and fear mingled with hope as I stared into Alaric's eyes, which burned with an insatiable fury. "You think you've won?" he sneered, but his confidence faltered. "You can't hide from the truth, and you can't escape what's buried in the past." Before I could react, he turned sharply, commanding his guards, "Get her. Don't let them escape." Without hesitation, the figures lurched forward once more, closing in around us. In a rush of adrenaline, my hand moved to the tome, clutching it tightly. "Now!" I shouted, pulling Cedric and Rosalind to my side. The light flickered, barely illuminating our way as newfound resolve bubbled in my chest. The air crackled with energy as we bolted toward the farthest corner of the library, where an arched window stood, beckoning us with the night sky beyond. But just as we reached the window, a jarring crash erupted behind us, and I turned to see Alaric's men were gaining ground, shadows tightening like a noose. "Jump!" Cedric's voice was urgent, and there was no time to hesitate. I lunged for the window, the cool night air greeting me like a long-lost friend, while the echoes of our fight rang loudly behind us. Everything inside me screamed to reach for safety, and yet, even as I propelled myself through the opening, a flicker of dread gnawed at me. Alaric's face flashed in my mind, a chilling reminder of the secrets we were still to uncover. As we plummeted through the darkness, I could only hold on to the tome and the hope it held whatever truth lay within it, we'd soon find it. But as we hurtled toward the ground, I realized that what awaited us beyond the shadows was an unknown that loomed larger than any danger we had faced so far. And within that uncertainty, I sensed something still lurking, a deeper truth that, once revealed, could redefine our destinies or shatter them entirely. The cold night air rushed past us as we fell. For a brief, breathless instant, I felt weightless, suspended between fear and freedom. Time stretched like a taut string, and in that moment, I could hear the whirlwind of our escape, the fading shouts of Alaric's guards above us, echoing like distant thunder. But just as quickly as that fleeting euphoria took hold, the ground rushed up to meet us, and I braced for impact. A thud reverberated through me, and I rolled upon landing, my body protesting against the hard earth. Pain coursed through my shoulder, and I hissed as I scrambled upright, desperate to locate Cedric and Rosalind. "Are you okay?" I shouted, scanning the cloaked figures that emerged from the darkness surrounding us. My heart pounded, echoing the fear that gripped me like iron chains. "That I am fine." Cedric's breathless voice came shortly after. He was rising from the ground, shaking off grass and dirt. Rosalind followed closely, her determination unwavering despite the fear etched on her face. "Look out!" she shouted, and we spun just in time to see a shadow rushing toward us. With a reflex born from the adrenaline swelling in my veins, I snatched the tome and held it out before me as if it could shield us from the impending danger. The guard lunged, but Cedric was ready. He tackled the guard with all the ferocity he could muster, both of them tumbling into the grass as Rosalind and I stood our ground, together. I called again, a desperate rallying cry. Our bond felt stronger than any individual fear. With the tome clutched tightly, I could feel the pulse of its power simmering beneath its worn cover, an ancient promise waiting to be unlocked. But just as we began to regroup, a sudden cliffhanger jolted through the very core of my being. I had forgotten the danger lurking within the shadows, forgotten about Alaric and the knowledge he sought. Out of the darkness, another figure emerged, cloaked in shadow. Unlike the guards who frisked about mindlessly, this one moved with the honed precision of a predator. My heart raced as he stepped into the moonlight, revealing familiar eyes filled with malice. It was Geron, Alaric's right-hand man, unrivaled in both cunning and cruelty. "Did you really think you could escape that easily?" he growled, his smile twisted with an unsettling mirth. "You have no idea what you're playing with. Stay back," I warned, but my voice trembled, betraying my fear. A flash of power danced weakly between us, and I could sense it wasn't enough. "Is that what you truly think?" Geron replied, circling us like a wolf on the hunt. "Your friend likely doesn't even know what you've unleashed. The tome isn't merely a book, it is a gateway, and the truth. It is bound to the blood that runs through your veins." I exchanged a panicked glance with Cedric. "What do you mean? Do you know who Amara is?" He leaned closer, and I could see the hunger in his eyes. "You wear her name like a shroud, but her legacy is tainted with darkness. She was a conduit for power, a vessel for secrets long thought buried." With a surge of emotion, I took a step back, clutching the tome to my chest. Stop. We won't listen to you, oh, but you already are. He laughed, bitter and cold. You are entwined with the past, whether you like it or not. It is why Alaric seeks you so fervently. It is why this battle is far from over. When he finds you, he will tear this world apart to extract what lies buried within you. My breath caught in my throat as an unseen weight bore down on me. The truth felt like a noose tightening each time the name Amara was spoken. What am I supposed to do with that? Embrace it, Geron said, his voice seductively compelling. The power is waiting, Amara. Don't fight your destiny. Cedric moved forward, his expression fierce and defensive. You're lying. We won't let you manipulate her, but Geron merely smirked, unfazed. Oh, I don't need to manipulate her. The truth will reveal itself in due time. And with that, the guard Cedric had fought got to his feet, brandishing a sword with a gleam that mirrored Geron's wicked smile. You're trapped, he declared, a sneer spilling across his face. As they advanced, I felt the weight of the tome pressing against my heart, urging me to act, to unleash whatever potential it held. I grasped at the longing hidden deep within me, a longing to explore the truth behind my own name, to take a stand against the malevolent forces that sought dominion over us. The tension crackled in the air, and for a heart-stopping moment, I hesitated. The uncertain path ahead loomed over me, and yet among the chaos, a flicker of hope ignited within me, a hope that perhaps the truth would be worth the battle, worth the pain. And then, as if an unseen gesture released the invisible tension, one of the guards faltered, his eyes widening as he looked past us, breath hitching in his throat. Geron's expression twisted into confusion. He began, but in that instant, an unearthly wind whipped through the clearing, sending leaves swirling around us like a tempest. It was a foreboding sign, but within its chaos came a clarity that I felt, a whisper against my thoughts, a plea, a command: trust. And just as I turned to look deeper into the shadows, something monumental broke through, leaving us poised at a precipice of fate, caught between the world we had left behind and the truth that was yet to be revealed. The wind howled through the clearing, an enigmatic force that felt both protective and menacing at the same time. I closed my eyes, feeling the energy pull at the edges of my consciousness, weaving around me like a silken veil. What? I whispered, overwhelmed by the unfurling layers of power that lay dormant within the tome. Stand together. Cedric shouted, snapping me back to the present. I opened my eyes just in time to see him bracing himself against the guard's advancing sword. Rosalind was already at my side, her courage a warm balm against the icy dread crawling up my spine. Fight, Amara. She urged, eyes shining with fierce determination, but Geron's mocking laughter cut through the escalating tension. You think standing together will save you? You have no idea what you're about to unleash. Power this great comes at a cost. That I fought to steady my breaths, my pulse racing, feeling the weight of their scrutiny like a spotlight aimed too bright. What cost? I could barely form the words, but they felt necessary, an anchor in the whirl of mounting chaos. Innocence, Geron replied, his tone dripping with satisfaction. Those who seek power often lose everything. Do you have the courage to pay the price? Shut up. Cedric exclaimed, voice hoarse and strained. He took a step toward me, creating a protective barrier with his body. We won't let you get to her. Yes, keep huddling together like scared sheep, Geron taunted, eyes dancing with malicious joy. But beware the wolf that lurks among you. Suddenly, the guard, momentarily stunned by the fury radiating from Cedric, found his focus. He swung his sword wide, its arc gleaming before it slammed sideways into the tree with a reverberating thud, narrowly missing Cedric's side. In that split second, I saw determination in my friend's eyes that ignited a fierce reaction within me. Now, I shouted, finally yielding to the reckless energy surging through me. I focused on the tome and grasped it tightly, feeling the intricate patterns pulsate beneath my fingers, alive and restless, waiting for my command. We can't just stand here, a flicker of understanding cascaded through me. Two need to know. Who was Amara? I shouted, the words flowing from my lips like a storm unleashed. What is bound to my blood, that is the question, isn't it? Geron halted, anger momentarily replaced by intrigue. Perhaps it is time for you to discover the truth, Amara. In that instant, I felt a rush of energy swell from the tome, a warmth that poured into me, igniting every nerve in my body. Light shimmered at my fingertips as I lifted the book. As if responding to some ancient command, the air around the tome crackled, and the shadows wavered, drawn like moths to a flame. Amara, no! Cedric shouted, eyes wide with alarm, but the energy was no longer mine to control. It coursed through my veins, and in that moment, I surrendered. Something deep inside me awakened, a latent part of my essence reaching for its twin, urging me to harness what had been kept dormant for too long. Without thinking, I aimed the tome at Geron, a wave of thought and emotion spilling forth. I am not afraid of the truth. A brilliant burst of light exploded from the tome, illuminating the clearing. Geron recoiled, his cruel smirk faltering as shadows recoiled around him. The brilliance cast aside uncertainty, urging Cedric and Rosalind to step forward, bolstered by the newfound energy, but just as quickly as the light surged, it flickered, an insidious darkness swallowing it whole. Foolish girl! Geron screeched, rage igniting his features. You think you can defy your fate? That power is a gift. It is a curse, and you've just awakened it. The energy in the air twisted ominously, suddenly turning frigid, like a dark cloud devouring the sun. My heart pounded with dread, sensing the horror that loomed just beyond my comprehension. Fear limitlessly stretched across my heart, leaving me gasping for clarity as I realized, awakening that ancient power had come with unexpected consequences. Without warning, the ground beneath us trembled. In that instant, the fragile veil of reality shattered, and from the shadows, a figure stepped forth, one I recognized only too well, yet could scarcely believe. Amara, the figure whispered, voice mellifluous and haunting all at once. It was a face I had only glimpsed in the fragmented memories of dreams. My heart froze as I stared into the eyes of a woman clothed in shadows. Me mother, Mom. The word fell from my lips, laden with disbelief and yearning, but I felt an overwhelming absence of warmth that typically accompanies familial bonds. Instead, an unsettling chill whipped through the air, rich with unspeakable dread. Your destiny has only just begun, she intoned, and with each word, the ground trembled more violently, matching the surge of emotions flowing through me. Stop this! Cedric shouted. We won't let her be part of this. But the shadows responded to none of us. A colossal force loomed, as if the secrets of the past were clawing their way back, dragged by unseen strings woven into my fate. It was no longer merely about the truth or power, it was about survival as time hung stilled in the air, poised at the precipice of an unfathomable reckoning. The chilling atmosphere wrapped around me like a shroud, every heartbeat echoing the gambit of emotions stirred by my mother's apparition. Amara, she breathed, and the name itself sent a tremor through my very being, another reminder of the legacy I carried but had yet to understand. Why now? I implored, stepping forward instinctively despite the warning bells clanging in my mind. Why are you here? What do you want from me? The shadows shifted, framing her ethereal form, and yet still, there was a disconnect. The maternal warmth I craved was absent, replaced by an unsettling void that gnawed at me. You have awakened the past, my child, and with it, the forces you cannot begin to comprehend. Stay back. Cedric shouted again, his voice strong yet tinged with desperation. The way he stood, protecting both Rosalind and me, ignited flickers of hope amidst the tumultuous fear we faced. Yet, his courage could only stretch so far. Let me in, Amara, my mother's voice wove through the air, resonating like a distant echo. The power within you holds the key to our salvation, but you must first confront the shadows. Her gaze pierced through me, and I shivered. She was beckoning me to tread a path riddled with dangers and secrets. Confronting shadows sounds perilous, Geron sneered, reveling in the chaos spiraling around him. You see it now, yet you are too naive to understand the cost of true power. That isn't all you want, is it? I glared at Geron, rage igniting within me. Your glee remains tethered to something darker. Power requires responsibility, a lesson you clearly fail to understand. He laughed, a sound as hollow as the shadows encasing my mother. Oh, dear Amara, responsibility is a luxury for those who do not wield the truth. This dance between destiny and desire will end, and when it does, can you honestly say you will emerge unscathed? Dread coiled in my stomach, watching as the ground vibrated beneath us with increasing urgency. The energy around the tome pulsated violently, reflecting the storms of my thoughts. Mom, what do you mean? What responsibility? Do you remember the family tales? She murmured, her voice softening, yet the shadows held her captive. The reason our bloodline holds power is intertwined with sacrifice, a thread you must unravel. Every bitter memory washed over me, and I swallowed back tears. I don't want to sacrifice anything. I want to be free to live my life, but my mother's gaze was resolute, a flicker of that warmth igniting within the cold ether of her essence. To live fully, Amara, sometimes you must embrace the shadows. The decisions you make tonight could forge your destiny or seal your fate. As she spoke, I felt a rush of memories flood back, moments of whispered warnings, the weight of expectation that had shadowed my childhood. Was it all tied to this moment? Fear is a prison, but knowledge can break you free, she urged. Find your strength, and do not fear what lies ahead, courage or recklessness. I mumbled, casting my gaze to Cedric and Rosalind. Their faces were grim but resolute, reflecting both fear and support. I realized suddenly that my journey was not solely mine, it was interwoven with theirs, and we would face this reckoning as one. But Geron, fueled by spite and malice, interrupted the moment. You're all foolish to think you can thwart the inevitable. The shadows have been summoned, the cost is rising. He pointed to the trembling ground as fissures snaked around us. Choose your next words wisely, Amara, or they may cost you dearly. A tension hummed in the air, so thick it was almost tangible, as I felt the weight of my choices constricting around me. What if discovering the truth only brings more pain? I challenged, my heart racing with uncertainty. Glimmers of hope sparkled from Cedric and Rosalind as they shared steadfast glances, bolstering my courage. We're here with you, Amara, Rosalind said, her voice unwavering. Whatever you decide, well, face it together. The shadows surged then, swallowing the brightness in mere seconds. Reality twisted, and the figures around me blurred, as if they were mere illusions flitting through a dream. I locked eyes with my mother one last time. Whatever the cost, we will uncover the truth together, and just like that, she smiled, a hauntingly beautiful gesture, but it felt like a promise laced with sorrow that left my heart heavy. But the shadows quivered ominously as I spoke, a foreboding promise that was bound to awaken the very forces I sought to control. Hold on to each other, Cedric shouted, grasping Rosalind tightly. But before I could react, the shadows erupted into frantic chaos, and a shriek tore through the air, unmistakably familiar yet scarred by agony. No! I screamed, dread pooling in the pit of my stomach. A figure hurtled toward us from the darkness, eyes wide with fear, echoing a warning that chilled my blood. Amara! It's too late. The voice was high and broken, striking through the swirling chaos. As the dark veil enveloped the clearing, I could only watch the fragility of our world fracture, and in the depths of that dread, a cold truth settled. The shadows not only carried my mother's essence but also the weight of secrets that had been buried for far too long. And as the hazy edges of the past began to unravel around us, I pondered, who would ultimately pay the price when the shadows fully awakened? The air was charged, electric with uncertainty, as the darkness reverberated with an unholy symphony of whispers, wrapping us in its heavy embrace. I had felt the familiar energy long before the figure emerged, the suffocating presence of fear mingling with hope. Amara! It's too late, the voice echoed through the chaos, unresolved and haunting. The figure stumbled toward us, illuminated by the sickly shimmer of shadowy tendrils curling at its ankles. In an instant, recognition hit me like a tidal wave, propelling me into a whirlwind of emotions. Evelyn! I breathed, my heart constricting. My younger sister was not meant to be here, a forgotten child of innocence wrapped in a world of ancient curses and blood-soaked legacies. Her eyes, usually bright and inquisitive, were now clouded with a horror I could never have imagined, and the weight of her name hung like a noose around my heart. Please, you have to listen, she cried, desperation infusing each word. They're coming. The shadows, they feed on fear, on doubt. Mom doesn't want you to fall into the same trap. Trap? I echoed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips, but it was laced with venomous uncertainty. "I'm the one thereafter. I have to face them, I can't keep running. No." Evelyn's voice cut through with fervor, a quiet strength radiating from her fragile form. "You don't understand, Amara. It's not just about you anymore. The stronger you become, the darker it gets. They will feed on your ambition." The shadows stirred as if summoned by her words, quivering in response. My heart quickened, suddenly aware that our shared bond was now a tether that could be severed in an instant. "We have each other," I murmured, unsure whether I meant that as reassurance or a desperate plea. "Your mother, she was taken by the shadows to wield their truth. You mustn't make the same mistake. You have to break the cycle." Evelyn yelled, her frenzied urgency draining me, threatening to unravel my already fragile resolve. "Breaking the cycle means digging deeper into our family's dark past," I argued, raking my fingers through my hair. "What if that knowledge consumes us, Evelyn? Why should I trust anything that comes from the shadows? They are the roots of your power." "Yes," she admitted, stepping closer, eyes searching mine for understanding. "But they're also the reasons for our suffering. You have to decide which path you'll follow, one that leads to salvation or one that seals our fate forever." Geron, impervious to our turmoil, stepped forward, his presence suffocating. "Oh, such delightful drama," he mused, a twisted smile plastered across his face. "Sacrifice is the nomenclature of your bloodline, Amara. Embrace it." But as I felt the boiling rage begin to surface, Cedric's reassuring grip broke through the chaos, grounding me for a moment that felt ethereal. "Focus on what you have: the love of your family, the support of your friends. That's what will make you strong enough to confront the shadows." Rosalind, standing steadfast beside him, nodded in fierce agreement. "Together, we can unravel this," she said softly, her eyes shimmering with steadfast belief, melding with my own hesitation. But doubt clawed at my insides, as the cracks in our world radiated through the ground, trembling and alive. "What if confronting this truth devours us all?" I whispered, the enormity of my fears spilling like a torrent incapable of being contained. "Then we prepare for the worst," Cedric stated, his voice firm and steady. "But we must act now, before the shadows redefine who we are. We can't let them take more from us than I am." That moment, amidst the fractures of the world around us, I felt flickers of strength igniting within. I glanced at Evelyn, her eyes pleading but filled with an ember of resolve. "Okay," I stammered, panic and determination weaving together. "We face the shadows together. No one walks this path alone." But before we could make our next move, a sensation rippled through the air, a poisonous dread settling upon us like a shroud. Something sinister rumbled within the depths of darkness, silencing even the whispers of my mother's essence, which had lingered like a spectre born of hope. Geron's laugh pierced the tension, an ominous reminder of what lay ahead. "You think this is a game? The shadows are already here. The first sacrifice has been marked, and more follows. The choice you make now is your own demise, Amara." And with that chilling proclamation, the shadows writhed violently, coiling around us with growing fury, devouring the air and leaving nothing but anguish in their wake. In the flickering depth of chaos, I caught a glimpse of truth in the shadows, abstract but undeniable, swirling like a dark tempest beneath my feet. And as realization dawned, a shocking fear choked me. In the heart of this gathering darkness, lay the revelation I had feared most: my family's fate was intricately linked to the shadows, and perhaps it was already too late for any of us to escape their clutches. Could I truly summon enough courage for the choices that lay ahead? Would breaking the cycle come with a price heavier than I could imagine? The shadows lurked, waiting, and I was left grappling with the chilling thought: who would be the ultimate victim when we ventured where light dared not tread? The shadows loomed like ancient titans, threatening to engulf everything I held dear. As Geron's laughter ricocheted off the darkness, I felt my emotions scream for clarity. My mother's ghostly presence mingled with the turmoil surrounding us, a haunting reminder of the lineage I had only begun to comprehend. I stood at the precipice of decision, staring into the abyss, afraid of what might emerge if I dared to confront the shadows. "Evelyn, you're so young," I said, my voice quaking. "You shouldn't be here. You're not bound to this legacy. But as I looked at Hermie's sister, caught in the grasp of ancient curses, I felt a surge of protectiveness almost drown me. Neither are you, Amara, she replied, tears pooling in her eyes. But we both carry our family's burden. We can either let it crush us or unite against it. The turmoil within me twisted and churned like a storm, but beneath the layers of fear and despair, I found strength. I had wrestled with shadows before, both externally and within myself. Perhaps it was time to face them once and for all. I glanced at Cedric and Rosalind, their faces resolute despite the uncertainty that dripped from the air. With a deep breath, I turned to them. We have to face whatever truth lies within these shadows. Together. We've seen too much not to. If the darkness wants me, it must come for all of us. The ground rumbled beneath our feet, and I felt the tremors echo through my very soul, the restless shadows hungry for more than just blood, they craved chaos. Geron stood poised like a predator, ready to unleash his malicious designs, yet, as the shadows pooled closer, an overwhelming urge surged through me. I clutched the tome tightly, calling upon the energy emanating from its pages, feeling the warm glow vibrate against my palm. The air crackled with anticipation as I raised the book, light spilling forth like a beacon in the suffocating darkness. You want the truth? I shouted, defiance instilled within me, fueled by the faces of everyone who had been taken by the shadows. I'll unearth it. I'll bring it to light. Geron's expression shifted, surprise melding with fury. You think your light will save you? You are but a flicker against the tide of shadows. Together, we're more than a flicker. Cedric shouted, his voice steady, grounding us even in the spiraling chaos. And just like that, a surge of energy erupted from the tome, its words echoing through the air. In unity, we shall unearth the shadows. The shadows paused, quivering, uncertainty flickering across their murky surface. I surged forward, driven by the unyielding bond one felt with my sister and friends. We share this legacy, not as slaves to it, but as warriors against it. Light exploded from the tome, bright and blinding, and I flung my arms wide as energy cascaded over us, illuminating the shadows that had once seemed insurmountable. For the first time, I felt the tendrils of darkness recoil, as if they were powerless against the force we had become. The light washed over the ground, revealing the hidden fissures entwined with my family's past, the truths we had buried. Amara, my mother's voice surged through the light, less ethereal and more grounded, less of a specter and more of a protector. You have awakened the power that can change our fate, but remember to wield it wisely. The shadows will attempt to corrupt it. The light won't always save us from the darkness, I replied, heart pounding, anchored in the confrontation. But together, we can confront it. It does not have power over us anymore. All at once, the shadows surged forward, banding together, a dark tide intent on quenching the light. Foolish girl! Geron bellowed. You know not the cost. But something in me refused to yield. I took a step forward, heart blazing with the memories of lives lost, a communion of strength coursing through my veins. Maybe I don't know the cost, I said fiercely, but I will pay it to protect those I love. The translucent light glowed even brighter, bursting forth in vivid hues that engulfed the encroaching shadows. Together with Cedric, Rosalind, and Evelyn, I pushed against the tide, our arms linked like an unbreakable chain, anchored in shared resolve. With each heartbeat, the power swelled, creating a barrier that filled the void with undeniable energy. The shadows shrank back as tendrils clawed at the edges of our light, clawing at the walls of reality containing them. Amara! Geron rasped, desperation rippling in his tone, the symphony of darkness enveloping him. This is your time. You cannot deny your past. Then I will learn from it. I shouted, draining every ounce of strength into the light as it pulsed, fluctuating, transforming. I will be the architect of my destiny. As the shadows surged one last time, I gave everything I had, the memories of all who had touched my heart merging into one potent force. In that moment of unyielding determination, a familiar, warm voice echoed through me, Amara, let them see your strength, and just like that, in a heartbeat suspended in time, I understood that I released the fear, the doubt, the whispers of what could have been. I would not be trapped by the very shadows that had hunted my family for generations. Against all odds, I took a step into the depths of darkness, the tome glowing with the light of everything I had learned and loved. As I faced Geron, "Did I reclaim my past?" I whispered, conviction surging through me, casting the darkness around me in stark contrast. "And I walk forward with the power to shape the future that I." In that moment, the light from the tome erupted like a supernova, consuming the darkness in waves as my words resonated through the air. "Let the shadows be revealed, let my truth be known." The shadows writhed violently, some dissipating into nothingness as the brilliance enveloped them. The light forged a path through the dark storm, bringing forth clarity, revealing secrets from the depths I knew existed that I felt their absence almost immediately. The fear of living under a curse, of being bound by a legacy of suffering, slowly began to melt away. Instead, a new truth emerged from the darkness, a realization that I was not a mere pawn but a vessel of change. And as the final remnants of Geron faded away, echoes of his laughter slipped into the night, a reminder of what was lost and what lay ahead. The shadows that had once hunted my family and strived to sink into despair now cowered before the light we created, drawn back into the depths they had emerged from. Finally, amid the remnants of fear, there was a stillness, a calm that settled upon us like a warm embrace. Cedric, Rosalind, and Evelyn stood beside me, our hands still joined. "That I never believed we could do this," Evelyn whispered, wonder lighting her features. "We defied the darkness." "Yes," I breathed, my heart swelling with a new sense of hope. "Together, we've carved a new path in the echoes of shadows." As dawn broke on the horizon, spilling warm hues across the universe, I turned to my sister, my heart racing. "We've uncovered the truth. Together, we can rewrite our destiny." And just as a new day began to unfold, I understood with overwhelming clarity the shadows would remain, but we were no longer defined by them. From this moment on, we would embody the very light that shattered their grasp. As we gazed into the dawn, brimming with promise, I felt the warmth of my mother's love wash over me, illuminating the intertwined legacies we now had the power to shape. No longer were we beholden to darkness, but brave souls who would carry these truths into a world reborn. In that moment, hand in hand, I whispered, "And we will be stronger together, forever committed to the light."